go to compete at Worlds. And then for me, I'm really interested how this period was for you actually. But for me, that's when internal work suddenly became like real for me. Before
Mm,
I knew it was doing something, but that's when I was like, oh, like shit, excuse my language. This place is actually like this thing is actually giving me the edge over other people, right? So
yeah,
another to introduce you to another colorful character who's just gonna, arise and pass away in this story. There's a place that you warm up in jiu-jitsu called the bullpen, which is where all the competitors go, which is it's like the place in between the mats and the outside. That's where you go, you
mm,
wait to get called, you're kind of doing your last bit of warm-up, just getting into focus. And there's this one guy who's shouting, like, I am powerful. I am like strong beyond belief. Like, bro, shouting this thing, and everyone's like shouting his affirmations, so good for him. But I remember being there and being like, oh, wait, like, that's most people's access to mindset work. I wanted to start this off with the first question you asked me on this podcast, which is, what is it that you do, and how is it that you show up in day-to-day life now? Because we're going to get into our shared history together and our stories and all that kind of fun trip down memory lane. But how is it that you're showing up now? And what is it that you're doing now?
it's a great question. I
Introduce
mean,
to yourself.
yeah, I was thinking, literally, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like,
Yeah.
what is it that I do? Because it's really hard
Hmm.
to explain it sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite way of speaking about it now is I like the term like work systems. Like that's been emerging for me as a way of, you
Mm.
know, shadow work has been a base that we've been working with for a while. But for me, light work systems is almost something that I needed because I was so focused on the shadow and the fixing and
Wow.
going into the dark
Mm.
that for me, it's almost like light work systems is something that I need to keep in my mind so that I'm erring on the side of celebration and emergence and growth and nurturing rather than just constantly go back into fixing mode.
Hmm.
But then there's the question of, how am I showing up? And what's been arising for me recently has actually been, you know, moving away from stories and labels and even how I've maybe identified the past 5 years to just seeing what emerges in spite of that.
What do you mean by that?
And what's been interesting is I think for so long, and we've done different stages, different iterations of this kind of work, and
Mm.
I would move to new identities, new ways of viewing myself, right? Viewing myself as someone who's now secure and now
Mm.
working in a world where I'm healing people or I'm helping people in this way. And I'm
Yeah.
integrating the business side of me and I'm integrating the healer side of me. And there's this maybe shamanic identity or whatever you want to call it. But now I've just been noticing a real liberation of what happens if all of that drops away
Wow.
and, not even putting labels in it. And I've been blessed with working with, our shared mentor, Pierre. As we go into the story, we'll hear more about him.
Mm.
But that's kind of been the thing that's on the tip of
Yes,
my
we will.
tongue of, yeah, he's going to come up plenty, I'm sure,
Yeah.
of what happens when we allow all of it to drop away and see what's underneath. And then not jump to put a new label on that thing.
Yeah.
Like what I've been working with sometimes with the Lightwork systems, depending on the stage
Light
of
work systems.
clients.
I like that name
Yeah.
for you, actually.
Yeah, me too. Is when we're at an earlier stage, we label things more. We get it really, really tangible. But as they evolve, what I've been noticing is the power of just letting it be, the light that does
Mm.
emerge without actually trying to put anything on it. And it
Yeah.
makes such a pure version
Experience of it.
and a completely new experience as well.
Yeah.
Because when we add a label, it's now within all the hundreds of times we've used that word. And so it's now changed because of a label,
Hmm.
but something about not adding that has been making for this where the change has been way more dynamic.
Yeah.
And now it's showing up in different avenues of our life, but also they seems to be getting more curious about who they are even beyond those avenues, just how they show up day to day, how they experience life becomes
Yeah.
more interesting.
Hmm.
And that space, you know, beyond the thinking mind, beyond the words, becomes also more interesting
Mm.
when we play with it in that way.
Yeah. Can I actually add a comment on that?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
as someone who is a great friend of you personally. You're probably one of my best friends as well, and we've worked together and we've just known each other for such a long time and in a very deep capacity, right? As Cameron smiles to himself. There's something about how Cameron smiles to me that makes me start laughing instantly. I don't know what it
Me
is.
too. You too.
But what I know about you is that this seems like what you just described to me, like a really cool stage from what you just told me, because at least from, and now this applies to everyone, but for you specifically in the way that you talked about it, there was always, in your own words, how you described it to me, and please let me know if I'm getting it wrong. You were always trying to build a character, to be like seen as
Oh yeah.
something, like that kind of
Mm,
thing. In the antithesis of what you're saying now, like to put words on it, to put labels on
yeah.
it, to be seen as this and whatever. If you want to look at the Enneagram, and there's a great book on the Enneagram called The Wisdom of the Enneagram. Now, me and Cameron, we don't subscribe to like personality zodiac kind of style of personality. Oh, this is who you are, and this is what it is. It can just give
Yeah.
us the same way that a map can give us clues of a territory, but it's not, it should never be mistaken as the territory. It's the same way that we view certain personality testings. Not to be like, this is your personality and this is who you are, but it just gives you certain clues about the person. Now, Cameron on that, if he doesn't mind me sharing, is an Enneagram Type 3. I'm Enneagram Type 8. Basically, what you need to know about that is, or how it shows up for me when I was looking at you, my issues were always around power and control. And whenever I felt disempowered and like I wasn't in control of a situation, that led to a lot of unsafety. Whereas for you, it was always about like becoming the perfect, whatever you were striving for.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that was like in a more social way or dating way, or it was in a business way, or it was in a whatever. And now what it seems really cool from the outside is you literally just talked about you not even participating in that world anymore.
Mm.
Does that sound like a fair assessment from me?
I mean, that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that because it's not even something I was relating it to.
Yeah,
Because I mean, probably for you actually, the same thing. We don't always remember the past versions of ourselves because
yeah,
we're so, you're with every single different version for years and years and years.
mhm,
But when I look back at that, and of course it may arise at times in small ways, but it's very much doesn't seem like the default operating system as it used to be.
mm.
And I'm just like re reminiscing is a bad word for it, but man, I mean, my dreams like every day used to be like me on a podcast talking about how great I was. Literally, like talking to like Joe
Oh,
Rogan or
here
someone
you
being like,
are
yeah,
speaking to our
you
50
know,
loyal listeners on a good day,
that's
you know?
right. That's right. Being like on
Yeah,
some crazy interview, being like, that's right. Yeah, just everyone loves me and I built this amazing business and it's like this, and this. And yet, yeah, I'm
yeah.
incredibly humble too. And that was, shamelessly, it was a
Yeah,
real desire, like this essence of,
yeah,
oh, I want everyone to love me. And also, I mean, we're not going to go too much into Enneagram, but we have those wings. And for me, it's
yeah.
free wing four. And so
Mm,
four has that uniqueness. So it'd always be
mm.
winning and really achieving, but in like a stylized way. Not always a unique way, but a stylized way.
Interesting.
So I'd love to, because I mean one of my crutches in life has always been gaming actually, because I was always
Mm,
love the winning aspects and then
Yeah.
they're choosing the style I'm gonna do it. You know,
Yeah.
like if I was playing NHL, which is an ice hockey game, I would
Mm,
really love to create a unique style of how the play would be. Like, are they a pure sniper, or are they this like big man who's amazing at getting the tips in?
mm,
But that's a that was what I then tried to do in life. You know, if it
right.
was done in, it had to be done in this way for it to
Yeah.
be satisfying and engaging for me.
Mm,
And it was all identity and all like, who am I becoming?
mm,
And it's been a real liberation to actually not think about that
yeah, of
and to
course.
not, worry about that because it was always about becoming for others to see as well.
Hmm. And I want to
Part of
ask
me.
one more. Well, it's all good. I want to ask one more question on that before we get into. Well, the question after this question will be, how did you get to this stage, right? But the question I want to get to before that is, when did that start liberating from you, liberating for you, and
Yeah.
how did it begin?
Yeah. I suppose what there's been stages of it. So there's been stages of where the game is the same, but I feel secure within it. So
Mm,
I still felt, at the beginning, like I was playing a game of becoming better with meeting people, right? And dating relationships.
mm,
And I would feel like I'd become more secure within that game,
right.
or playing a game of becoming a better man, right?
Mm,
Becoming a more masculine, empowered, grounded man. And I would feel
yeah.
more secure within that game, right? So I would often show up in more healthy ways. I wouldn't
Mm,
be using, you know, I wouldn't be often coming from shadow. People would see me as healthy,
mm,
right? And that would be like one of the first stages. And I was still using some similar work,
mm,
earlier versions of it, to get to a more secure version within that. But still, there was this essence of performance just in a healthier way, right? It was
mm,
like a evolved metrics, right? Better metrics, but the
yeah.
metrics were still there. The game was still being played.
Right. There was like
It
a
was
meta
just,
game almost,
yeah,
like
exactly,
playing into
exactly.
that. Okay.
Yeah, there was still a performance. It was just now the performance took on more healthy measurables.
Wow. There
If I
was
was in a
still a
good
performance.
relationships, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
If I was in a good relationship, if I was showing up relaxed and grounded,
Mm,
whereas before it would be often these more negative measurables, like how many dates had I had, right? That
mm,
sort of thing, right? Harsher, less secure measurables. But it was becoming more secure. But then I think the biggest thing that started to change is the games started to drop away. And I suppose you said it great, like the meta game, and there was games within the meta game. So it'd be kind of the dating and relationships view, the business view, and then the overarching view of me and myself,
right.
and having that within it.
Hmm.
And so I think one of the first things dropped away was probably the relationships view,
Yeah.
because in many ways I got to a great point where I'm
Yeah.
in a relationship with someone that I really love, someone that um, is very good for me, like someone that I
Hmm.
would really want to be with.
Yeah. That
And
person is
so,
me, by the way, guys.
yeah, that's actually you. Sorry, the man.
Yeah, I'm still not.
That's right.
I'm totally not jealous that she took you away from me.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, that's right. I'm playing the long game. Anyway, enough of
That's
my
right.
dad jokes. Because the reason why I joked about that actually is because
Mm,
that for me is something which I can confirm from an outside point of view that very quickly and
mm,
cleanly broke away from you because you also put so much work into that as well. You had a great
yeah,
mentor, Pierre, who we keep mentioning, and I'm sure Sister was actually a mentor in that, actually, in her own kind of way too. Sister came up.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah,
did I cut you off because I feel a new question
yeah.
arising for me?
Actually, go for it. I'm sure it'll come out as we're speaking about this.
Well, it's just before we met each other, because that's when I guess I'll come in a little bit more. If you want to know more about my early point, then you can just listen to the first podcast. I highly recommend it. But we established where you are now and what's dropping away from you and the games that dropping away from you. And then what we were coming to was you started to look at, wait, what's making me even play the game to begin with and have that
Yeah.
performance? And then that's how that kind of liberated. How did you get here? If we start, like what you can start at any point, like what year, how old were
Mm,
you? Before we met. We'll
yeah.
do it all before me and you met on that fateful day in Camden in
Oh,
London,
yeah. Yeah.
a nice summer's
That's
day.
a great question. I mean, I think if I scroll back a little bit, and I think the time that comes up for me most was actually when I met my first mentor. His name was Omar, who was a business mentor.
Oh
And I
yeah.
was running a business that was doing awful at this time. This is before I met Omar, right? I was making
Yeah.
like $100 a month, maybe. Like I was
Nice.
really trying, but I
Yeah.
was what? I was 18 or 19, very, very young. Had
Yeah.
no idea what I was doing, just really trying. And I met him, and at this point I had no money.
Mm,
Like literally, you get an overdraft when you're a student, because I was still at university.
mm.
And so you get mine at like 500 in your overdraft, and I was 300, no, 200 in. So I had 300 left in the overdraft, which I counted as
Nice.
my money, but in reality, it's like not my money.
Yeah.
And
That's a Cameron
anyway,
move
this
right
guy
there.
messaged me, and I was just running up on vibes and caffeine at the time. So I
Mm,
was like, yeah, let's jump on a call. You seem to know what you're talking about, and he genuinely did. He had some good clients already.
yeah. Yeah.
He was helping people build their business from like 0 to 5, 10K months.
Yeah. Great
And so I was
mentor.
like, all right, cool. I'll see what it's about. I wasn't thinking about buying, but in hindsight, like me jumping on the call was thinking about buying. I'm
Yeah.
pretty impulsive in some ways in those ones. And we have a chat, and he knows his stuff.
Mm,
Now, at this point, I didn't know my stuff, so I didn't know that he knew his stuff. I just felt like he knew his stuff.
nice.
You know, but the vibe was really
I
good.
don't know this story, but this sounds so on brand for
Yeah,
you that I'm not
yeah,
questioning anything.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I got lucky here because if it was someone else who was kind of certain and charismatic who did suck as a mentor, I probably would
Yeah.
have said yes too. But
Yeah.
also, to be fair to myself, I was running on a gut feeling,
Mm,
and we got on really well, so I said yes. And then he told me a price, and he was like, "Well, it's $4,000," and I'm like, "All right,
that's
sure.
doable.
Um, how about I give you 300 now, because that's all I had,
Yeah.
even though it's not even my money, right?
Yeah.
That's all the Bank of England had
Yeah.
for me." And so I gave him that as a deposit. So I wasn't even starting my program. He just said, "All right, you give me this as a deposit. This is November. The first payment is scheduled for January. For now, I can help you over text,
Mm,
and then we'll start properly in January." I'm like,
yeah.
"Good to go. Let me go get a job." And so I'm like going on interviews that whole next week. I end up doing an interview for the weirdest job in the world. It's a company that makes cricket hats, right? I don't think I've
You
told you
didn't tell
this
me,
yet.
you never told me about this story
And
before.
the job was you basically like have super glue and you like stick the stuff on the cricket hats or something, and you just got to get through like a ton of each day.
Damn.
And the reason I was able to do this because it was kind of COVID at the time, so university was
Mm,
all online. So I was like, all
mm.
right, cool. I'll just do the job, do the business, and do the university. Should be all right.
Bish bash
Got
bosh.
coffee. It's all good. I'm
Yeah.
19, running on fumes, no problem.
Yeah.
And I was terrible at this because I've got naturally quite shaky hands, and when I'm nervous, I get more shaky.
I
So my
didn't want to say
interview,
it, but I could
right?
imagine that that is not your
I
like
was
area of talent.
awful. It's not my forte. And I show up like suit on. I look good, but
Nice.
I did not perform with these proper geezers. Like it's a
Yeah.
factory environment, like proper geezers. And I'm like trying to do it, and they were kind of nice to be fair to them. Like they were like,
Mm,
"You did an all right job," as it's like all gangly and disgusting and definitely
mm.
cannot be sold.
Yeah.
And so I'm convinced I failed it, and I'm like, all right, that's all right. I didn't really want to be making cricket hats anyway.
Yeah.
So the next job is for the supermarket Tesco's, and it's this job where you have to basically pick up people's online shopping. And you get the scanner, you're putting things in your trolley all day.
Mm.
It's a bit of a hard job because you have to do it really early because you've got to do it before people come into the store. So I
Yeah.
do that interview. And then what happens is I get an email from the hat people, the cricket hat people, and they say, "Oh, you didn't get the job." I'm like, "Yeah, thought so."
Yeah.
So I ended up accepting the Tesco job, right?
Mm.
But what was really interesting is apparently I did get the cricket hat job. They just sent the
Really?
wrong email, and they told me that 2 weeks later, which is
What?
crazy. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Okay, all right. Well,
Yeah.
sorry, I've already got another job, which was a blessing in disguise because I could do the Tesco job. I wasn't good at it, but I could do it. I could not do that cricket hat job.
Yeah.
But anyway, I get this job and it's peaks around Christmas time because that's when it's the busiest. Obviously, everyone's getting their stuff for Christmas.
Mm.
And so my life is just probably the intensest 3 4 month period of my life where I'm waking up at 2:30 a.m.
Damn.
to get to the Tesco place for 3 a.m. It's this massive store. You're coming in, it's dark. I just
Mm.
feel dread, like, oh, I hate
Oh.
this. And I'm not good at the job because all you're doing is just mundanely picking out stuff, putting it in the thing, and they're timing you, and they put you
What?
on red,
You're in
um,
Big Brother. What's
amber,
happening?
or green. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy, right? Like if you're
Yeah.
slow, if you're in middle, you're on amber. If you're fast, you're on green. If you're slow, you're in red. I was always in the red.
Damn.
And only that, you're not able to have headphones or anything, and you've got a mask on, you're not allowed to talk to anyone. So it's
Damn.
really hard, like, because it's just you're just doing the most mundane thing. You're not allowed to speak to anyone, you're not allowed to listen to anything. So 3 a.m. to about, it depends. You'd go home when you finished, so that could be 11, but it could be 1. If like you're slow, it's a big day. It could be 1 p.m. and that is just
That
a
sucks,
bad day
bro.
at the office, right? Because you're going back and you're waiting is there more trolleys and you're seeing the number go down, and some days it just doesn't go down
Yeah.
and you get slower because of it. But anyway, so what I would do is I'd come back at 11 or 1 depending what it was, and I was told about this thing called a coffee nap. So you slam an espresso. My friend who I lived with, he had an espresso machine, which is great. So I slammed an espresso, got a
Nice.
20-minute nap, then went at it and was just doing myself, trying to build a business. I was doing a version of helping people with dating and confidence at the time.
Wait, what is the purpose of having a coffee and then taking a nap? You just
So
brushed
here's the
over that.
thing. No, no, no. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, I did
Okay.
brush over that. Supposedly, it takes about 20 minutes for the coffee to kick in, supposedly.
Okay.
And so you get a kind of sleep while it's kicking in. And then when it kicks in is also when you're waking up from the sleep.
Okay.
So you kind of get the nap and then you're not groggy afterwards and you just go up and you just hit it.
Ah. Oh, I forgot
Yeah.
this is the optimizer Cameron I'm talking to right
This
now.
was the optimizer camera. And yeah, so I was doing
Yeah.
that. I had the green, like I had no money, but I had enough money for green juice, apparently. I don't know how. And so I had the coffee nap. Then the next 3 4 hours were doing the business. There was
Mm,
like 1 hour that I saved to actually do my university work, which I didn't really
mm,
do at the time.
yeah.
And then I would go to sleep, do all again, 6 days a week. Sunday was like, thank God we are finished.
Yeah.
And Omar was helping me. But what actually happened was through that experience of I just hated doing the work in the morning. Like I hated going to Tesco's. It
Of
wasn't a
course.
terrible job, but I hated it. It gave me so much motivation to like from pure stress and anxiety, I've got to get these
Mm,
clients.
yeah.
And I did. And so with the help of Omar, I got a fair amount of clients. I did really well in my first month. For me at the time, I made about £4,000 or like five thousand
Wow.
pounds, like a fair amount.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, cool. I'm out. I'm out of this Tesla job. I've got enough money to pay Omar and to live. I'm
Yeah.
done. So I handed in the thing, and they were like, "You're on a contract. You can't leave." So I don't know if I can say, I don't know if I can say this next bit, but I took 2 weeks holiday or something, so I could do that.
Yeah.
And then Because it was during that time with COVID. I
Yeah.
just said I got COVID.
Uh,
So I couldn't come in for a couple of weeks.
Oh my
I don't
God.
know if we're allowed to keep that in. I think that's fine. It's five
That'll
years
be
later,
fine. I
so who's
mean,
gonna care?
it's not like who's gonna get after you?
Yeah,
The
yeah. Who's
Tesco
gonna go after?
Mafia? Like
Exactly.
nothing's going to.
Who knows? We say that they come knocking on the door. It's
Yeah.
Tesco's.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I managed to get out of the job, and then I was in this period where I was doing really well for about 3 or 4 months because I was just riding the high, and I'd done really well, and I had the motivation. And
Mm,
then what happened is I just ended up having a real plateau because I kind of got pretty about it. I've been
mm,
riding on like just this pure grunge of just pushing, 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 pushing. And the moment I felt like I was in a good position, I I just kind of stopped doing what really mattered. And it wasn't that I stopped working because my constructs at the time wouldn't let me stop working. I still had to do a certain
right.
amount of hours a day in my mind. But I would always spend time instead of doing the thing that had worked, which was direct outreach,
Mm,
doing a bunch of other stuff that wasn't really making a difference. It
mm,
wasn't really making a difference to the business. And even with the support of Omar, I often found myself self-sabotaging, not telling
mm,
him the real problems that were going on so I couldn't really get support and advice. And what started to happen is it just started to plateau and it started to just drop. But around this time, so I was basically getting in my own way, right? If we looked at it now, it's like real self-sabotage, limiting myself, all of this stuff. But at the time, Omar, who was my mentor, was learning from Pierre himself,
mm,
right? So Omar just said, like, dude, there's this guy. I can't really tell you what he does. He's just amazing and he's changing my life. So I recommend go speak to him. I'm like, what does he do? He's like, I can't explain it, man, but you got to go and
yeah.
check him out. And I'm like, all right, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So I rolled up to Pierre, joined his group, and bearing in mind, I've just made the money back from buying Omar's course, right? I've just
Yeah.
paid him off, and now I'm in the clear. I'm like three, four, few thousand in my bank account, most of it I had at this point in my life,
Mm,
and I joined Pierre's group, and they were just doing a launch of this new program, which is all about really
wow.
unlocking your true self, like unlocking real. I mean, I don't know how you describe it, unlocking real
It was
confidence,
originally
unshakableness
like
in a
unshakable. It was
dating
originally
context.
masculine polarity, I guess is what you could
Yeah,
call it. But
yeah, exactly.
that's also because he was just doing it to men at the time. But it was essentially leadership, really like anyone who's had a problem owning their space, boundaries.
Yeah,
Obviously because it was specifically masculinity, it was around dating as well. So if you've ever had any stifled around dating, stifled in general, like just being the person, I guess, that you think of that doesn't have these problems, that doesn't isn't playing small anymore, right?
absolutely.
Is basically how
Yeah,
I would describe that.
yeah. And so, and he said it, you said it in a great way there, but he said it in
Mm.
his way, which I'm like, sign me up.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give you all my money again. Here we go.
Seems to be a bit of a pattern
And
emerging there,
it
Cameron.
was a little bit of a pattern, like out of the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah.
And then what happened, my business was still doing all right, but it was slowly getting worse and worse and worse.
Hmm.
But I got closer and closer with Pierre. And I got really into his work. And more importantly, not even into the work, but into the frameworks and understanding that he had of, you know, the idea of integral theory, the four quadrants, spirodynamics.
Mm.
This was like my first real understanding of what integral even meant, what stages even meant. And then, of course, shadow work and inner work,
Mm.
and really doing that both with a spiritual um, meditation discipline, but also from including real shadow work and cleaning up
Yeah.
within
Yeah.
it as well.
Yeah.
And it was just magnetized me so much that I was like, all right, I want to do this.
Mm.
And so I started bringing it more into what I was doing. And I just got more and more opportunities to work with Pierre, both one on one, like learn from him, but actually to help him out because he needed some admin stuff done. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. I just said yes to everything. I think similar to you,
Yeah.
right? But just in different ways. He had a business partner over time who needed some stuff done. I was like, yep, no worries, I'll sort it out. And then a few months later, he was looking for someone to do not just help out, but actually be the kind of admin guy, do it all guy for his business.
Yeah.
And I remember it was January of 2022, I'm thinking. And what was happening was the business was just like at a point where I had a few clients, but it was basically like I either need to change something big to get it back, but I also wasn't feeling motivated to do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, is this the thing? Should I go ahead and do this? I don't know. Okay. So I applied and had an interview with Pierre, and he gave me the job. And so actually within this, we had met,
Yeah.
but only like a little bit back and forth.
Yeah.
But this is really around the time that I properly meet you, and we're
Yeah.
connecting a lot, and I get the job, and it this whole world emerges. And maybe I'll stop here because this is when it becomes a duo
A
experience,
duo
but
experience. Yeah.
that's kind of how it started, really.
So if we put a mark on the end of that chapter, I guess what I'm not looking for is not a summary of how you'd summarize it, but if we were to mark that chapter that you just described up until now,
Mm.
how would you mark that? Whatever that question means
Yeah,
to
yeah,
you.
yeah. For me, it was like the death of what I thought wanted, because I did in many
Wow.
ways get a lot of what I wanted, not
Yeah.
to the fullest extent.
Yeah.
There was still craving there for that stuff, but I did make real money. I did make it online, so I had real freedom. But I started to get an introduction to something that was more important to me, to
Wow.
the inner work, the meditation,
Yeah.
to showing up truly at the time authentically was a big word,
Yeah.
right? But I think a better word is without limits, or
I
as
love
Pierre
that word.
describes now, unshakable, you
Right.
know.
Exactly.
Uh, and this is what became more important to me than maybe a year and a half at the beginning of that chapter, when it was like, I just need to get money, I need to become free. And
Mm.
it was like, oh, this is the real freedom, right?
Yeah.
There's freedom too, but this is where I'm actually also not free.
Hmm.
I'm not free internally
Yeah.
in how I'm showing up.
That's when the penny dropped.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Let's just take a quick pause and then we'll get back into it. So I guess with the ending of that chapter, we'll I'll kind of say what I was doing up until that point, or
Yeah.
not all of it because we got into that in the first podcast. Go ahead and watch that if you're interested in little old me. But basically, Cameron at the time when he joined the program, I was already like, I guess you could say the lead appointment setter with Pierre. I was getting everyone into the group. Like Cameron, I was saying yes to everything. The whole reason I said yes to that is because before that, before Cameron got the job, is Pierre was working with his business partner, and then they needed someone like me to like bring in leads and just hype everything up. I honestly have no idea what I was doing in that in that thing. I was getting paid a decent wage as well for like part-time work. I was getting paid like something like 1,000 or like 1.2K for like part-time work when I was just living at home with my mom trying to practice jujitsu. It was the best thing ever. So me and Cameron, we connect a bit through that. We're in the social stage mastermind together. Also, that's the other thing. While Karen was busy grinding, getting his business going, I was living at my mum's house just trying to get jiu-jitsu going. So I had like zero money. Like up until the age of 25, really, I had like no money in my bank account at any time. Like I never had more than like 1,000 was even a lot. Like before this, like I didn't even have like a few hundred really in my bank account. I just had nothing because I was just spending it on like jiu-jitsu competitions and my training and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't have time to get anything more than like a part-time job at a shoe shop, which is what I was doing for some of it. But anyway, that's happening. That company implodes as well, just because Pierre was going through a lot of like spiritual stuff, and that company needed to be reformed, and I was up on my ass out of that company, right? The best job I ever had. I only had it for 3 months, and then I had to rejoin the. Did I have? Was it rejoin, or I had to rejoin the shoe shop at Liverpool Street Station during COVID as well, which is like one of the most boring jobs I've ever done ever because there was no one in the city. We'd have like two
Wow.
customers come in a day, and we'd have to like share that between us, the workers that were there basically. And
Um,
anyway, that's going on. Because I had experience with that, Pierre set me up with another person it's actually a friend that I'm traveling around with at the moment called Ege, right? And Ege was running a dating offer at the time. And he was like, he needed an appointment setter. So there I was. And me and him crushed it together. Like this was like a peak appointment setting. We done super well. But then his new coach, who he dropped like a quite a substantial bit of money on, was like, "Oh yeah, you need an appointment setter that's there 24/7." So Ege was like, oh, "Okay, bro, like, can you do that?" And I was like, "No," because I have to. I was doing my university just like Cameron. I was doing my university at the same time whilst also training jiu-jitsu full time. So really, what that meant is university was part time and
Crazy.
jiu-jitsu was full time, right? That's what that meant basically. I don't think anyone disrespected the institution of university more than me and Cameron in this story. We were
Oh,
just
that's for
doing it as
sure.
like a pastime, basically, just a cheeky bit of debt to get into.
How
Just
how many sessions were you doing a day at this time?
at this time, that was during the week, I was doing about 6 to 8 hours if I could, right? Six was on the lower side, and then on the weekend, I would say, what was it? I'd go to open mat on the morning, so Saturday would be about 3 hours, and then Sunday would either be 3 hours, or maybe I'd take it chill that day, or I'd take it off. So that was my schedule, basically.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's yeah,
Yeah, I was
especially because I mean now that I've trained a little
mm,
bit, it's like it's not even just for time, it's actually takes so much of you mentally to do that and then to come back and do like real work. It's really hard. I can't
yeah.
do very good work after training.
Yeah, maybe I was that's why I crushed it in lead gen because I just was just stupid. So I just like people were telling me about like everyone talks about how I promise this isn't gonna turn into a business podcast, but everyone talks about how that is like the hardest job. For me, I'm like, bro, I can just send out messages. I don't care if anyone says anything bad to me. Because meanwhile, I'm getting like, me and Kevin were doing dating, like getting into dating at the time and like speaking to people that we're interested in. I'm getting blown out like 50% of like the time that I'm actually like speaking to someone in real life. Do you think somebody's really gonna
Yeah,
bother me like online? And yeah, so I have to go away from Ege's company, but he sends me because Ege's a great guy. He's like, "Oh, but I have a friend. His business is really struggling. Like, can you just um like I think this will be a good fit for you." So because of that, I'm able to negotiate a good deal, right? I think I left the shoe shop at this point where I get a salary and a commission. It's just like such a like when you're doing jiu-jitsu, because it takes so much energy, you don't have any time to like mess around. I'm an agreeable person as well. So I was just like that. He was like, cool. He hadn't made any money for the whole time. And at the start, I'm setting up appointments for him. He was a dating coach as well. And he's just not closing any of them. And I was like, bro, like I have no control over this. Like I want to get that commission, but at the end of the day, like if he's running the sales call and nothing's happening, then I don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, then one time I'm walking back home from training, and anyone who's ever trained anything knows that the headspace that you're in is just so brain dead. And I get a voice note from him. I'm like, oh, bro, come on. Like, what's he going to be complaining about this time? He's a great dude, by the way. I'm kind of hyperbolizing it just for the fun of it. But it was like a stressful time for him because, it's his business and he wasn't making any money from it. And I get this voice note, and like that scene in a war movie or something where someone gets flashbanged and they do it from the position of the guy who got flashbanged. And it's like people
yeah,
shouting and it's like that ringing noise. The way he sounded in that voice note was like that. And it was he, and he
really.
was saying, "Oh my God, bro, like I can't believe what just happened. I just closed four people in a row. I just made €8,000 from it. Like, and he went from making nothing to like in a few,
Yeah.
like in a day, like to making 8K. And I was like, bro, that's great. And he was like, I'm gonna send you a commission, send you your commission right now because they all closed as well. And I was like, bro, this is great. Like, I'm getting the most amount of money I've ever gotten in my life. But then all of a sudden, Pierre calls me up one day, and we were always chatting. Like, he was always giving me extra stuff. Like, he's always been so helpful for me because, like I said, like I was never in a financial position to afford any of this stuff, you know? Now, it wasn't just doing stuff for free. I grew in the space of a weekend his group from like 400 something people to 600 people in the space of a weekend, right? That was for free, you know, because I just wanted to help out so much as well. Um, and then when we worked together in social stage, we developed a bit more of a friendship, a good relationship, that kind of stuff. And he calls me and he's like, "Yeah, I got Cameron doing admin." At this point, me and Cameron had been acquainted. Like we were on some of the live streams together. He seemed like a cool dude. This is funny though. You'll laugh at this. It's because we were the same age and I was a competitor. I'm like, I'm gonna outwork Cameron.
Really?
This is not when you were the admin person. This was like just when we were in the same mastermind, you know, like a bit of healthy
Ah,
competition or
right.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And he calls me and he's like, "Yeah, I'm building a team. Like, do you want to be a setter?" And I'm like, "Oh, I already got this job here and it's going pretty well." And Pierre's like, "Oh, let's just have the call." As things normally go with Pierre in this story, I end up starting to work with him on a worse deal than I was working with this other guy with. Um,
Damn.
and that's when me and Cameron really started getting connected. I can't remember the timeline though. Like, was this when we were together? Have we gone on the meditation retreat yet or not yet?
It kind of blurs into one. I think
Yeah,
it was around this time that we went on the
yeah,
meditation retreat. It was
yeah,
around this time. It might have been slightly earlier, but we went on meditation retreat.
yeah,
So that was early in the year. That was January.
mm,
So I remember
yeah,
this also being earlier in the year.
yeah. So you had to forgive our memory, but we'd also gone on a meditation retreat at this point. Which is a Vipassana meditation retreat where you don't speak to anyone for like 10 days. And the high you get after speaking to somebody after 10 days, it's like you can't stop smiling. And that was a really powerful experience for me because that took meditation, which we were doing somewhat consistently, to being like a real cornerstone of our life together,
Yeah,
or my life
absolutely.
at least. I remember there being a noticeable difference after that 10-day meditation where you're literally meditating about 10 hours a day and
Mm,
waking up at 5 a.m., doing the whole shebang. But what did that change for you, actually, that experience?
I mean, it was it's understated how crazy it is when you don't speak for 10 days.
Ah,
That
and you
in
don't
itself
really look at anyone
was,
either. Well, I was definitely
yeah,
following that. Yeah,
yeah, me too. They said don't look anyone in the eye,
yeah,
like because it's a subtle way of communicating. It's all about kind of being with yourself.
yeah.
And it was hard. Those 10 days were actually quite
Day
difficult
three
because,
really tested me.
yeah,
And day
and
seven,
seven,
yeah,
yeah, those are
yeah,
the tough ones, and it's it's boring. It's really boring because
yeah.
you're just meditating for 10 hours a day, and the only thing that gives you stimulation is the food, which was top tier,
Phenomenal.
absolutely top tier,
Yeah,
amazing food.
yeah,
And what's crazy, I've always been a meat eater. You're a pescatarian at the time, but
yeah,
still had fish in your diet a lot.
yeah.
It was all vegetarian food, and it was amazing. Like
Some of the best
I
food
was,
I've had to
it
this
was a
day.
salvation, you know.
Yeah,
Like it stopped me from tapping out
yeah,
because it was tough. But then when you finally speak after 10 days, it honestly felt, I mean, I've never actually done MDMA, but it's probably what it is because it was so much happiness
yeah,
and so much excitement.
yeah,
The feeling of like a kid on Christmas, but times by three. It was
yeah,
such an intense experience.
yeah,
And from that, what was interesting, it wasn't necessarily the meditation that was really great.
Mm.
because we actually moved around that time. I remember specifically, we moved from a Vipassana style to
Yeah.
Twim because we
To
started to get
meta.
in contact with Sister and Metta,
Hmm.
right? So it's not like we carried meditation with us, but it was the knowing you can
Mm.
do that long, you can be
Mm.
that focused, you can be without for so long and you're
Yeah.
completely fine. And in many ways, you're happier.
Yeah.
And having that resilience and almost that it was like, oh, you've done this. So now you're ready for, in my opinion, a more effective meditation technology, right? I think
Yeah.
TWIM is more effective than Vipassana or
Yeah.
um, the breathing. What's the other one? I forgot what it's called. I'd say it's more effective. And so
Mm.
when we were given TWIM and we were really fortunate to actually, be on the phone, at least for me, I'm pretty sure you were too, with Sister
Mm.
Kama, who
Yeah.
was informing Pierre at the time, but also she was a senior Buddhist nun at a really, powerful from a really powerful lineage.
Yeah.
And she needed some help with some stuff. So I was like, all right, I'll help, no worries. And while I was helping her, she would talk to me about the Dharma and she'd give me specific
Mm.
instructions. And I think what I loved about Twim is she knew exactly where you were and what the next thing you need to focus on. There was
Yeah.
really a growth within the process
Yeah.
that the previous technologies didn't have.
It wasn't
But
any
that meditation
mysticism
retreat,
in the
yeah,
process. It was like,
it
this
was
is
like
what
a
you need to do.
science.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just throwing and hoping. It was like, this is what you do. This is the real focus this time. Then you do that, then you do that, then you do that. And it grows different parts of the mind to
Yeah.
the point where you're able to sustain intense metta, which is loving kindness, intense karuna, which is compassion,
Yeah.
equanimity. But I suppose the actual retreat, I'm curious if it's the same for you, gave me the confidence and like the almost ability to concentrate to go into Twim and just like really run with
Just
them.
really crush it. Yeah. Like that was when I was kind of like a 45-minute sit for me before that time was like a long time. But after that, I was doing an hour, and an hour seemed like a short time. Even to this day, I haven't meditated in a while, to be honest with you. But the last time I meditated, I think it was for 45 minutes and it passed like that. Like to
Yeah,
this day, like when I think about an hour, maybe listen, I'll get on the cushion and that'll be a long time for me, right? That happens all the time. But at least somatically or semantically in my mind, an hour is seen as a short meditation, like a
yeah,
short,
yeah,
just a quick
absolutely.
pick me up. I want to get your thoughts on this though. That meditation you meet a colorful cast of characters, that meditation retreat in the International Meditation
Yeah,
Center of the UK. Recommend it
yeah.
if you're interested.
Oh, honestly,
Um,
yeah,
you meet, like I said, colorful characters. At that point, looking back at it, you could kind of already see the cracks and the limitations of meditation being your only practice when it comes to this.
yeah.
Because you would see people, there was one guy who like kept on doing retreats back to back to back. Maybe this was like his 15th retreat or something like that. I'm not sure if you remember this guy that I'm talking about. You
I
probably
remember,
do.
yeah.
Yeah, one of the guys. And he was still struggling with the same issues. Now he was better. He was able to watch his mind. He was like a very regulated, cool dude. Like, I'm not going to try and
Yeah. Yeah.
say he wasn't. But when you were listening to him, like, speak about how he was before and how he was now, there was a big difference. But there wasn't a difference in terms of like fundamentally the insecurities that he was dealing with on a fundamental level,
Yeah,
fundamentally the narratives
absolutely.
that were being carried with him,
Yeah.
fundamentally the fear or whatever was, or the parts of him that were working. We didn't really know that was at the time, or at least I didn't. I just had a vague idea. And I think that's a really interesting prelude to go ahead and talk about, or we don't have to talk about it now. That's not what I mean. The cracks that showed up for us when we were in Budapest, and just
Oh,
doing
absolutely.
meditation a lot, right? Was that something, looking back at it now, was there any kind of lessons that you could pull out of that?
Oh, absolutely. And you know what's interesting when I'm looking around at the people? The person that I thought had it carried themselves in a really great
Mm.
way was also the one that was really, the guy who was like living in New York. He was a writer. And
Oh
there was something
yeah, a
about
filmmaker as
because
well, right?
filmmaker or something like that,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that kind of the reason he comes to my mind is because he wasn't just living and like trying to escape. For
Mm.
him, this was an amazing thing he was doing, it was part of his life, but he
Hmm.
was going out in the world and living, and he
Wow, I
wasn't,
totally forgot
running
about
away from
him.
anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Whereas some of the other characters, it felt, and some of them maybe even said it in basically
yeah.
different words, was that it was their escape. They basically just, the retreat was like a salvation from the outer world.
Hmm.
Whereas I think our philosophy, and this is what we're going to explore, like you said, cracks in Budapest,
Hmm.
has been more of it's something to integrate within the world so that you
Hmm.
can show up freely
Yeah,
rather than something to hide away in a meditation retreat.
yeah,
I think that guy embodied it in many
yeah,
ways.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a reason why Theravadan Buddhism, which is, I think you could safe to say, is probably the most popular form of Buddhism everywhere, or like it's the most
Mm,
ubiquitous. When you think of Buddhism, you're thinking of Theravada, most likely. There's a reason
yeah,
it's called the path of renunciation, right? We're not
yeah,
here. I mean, if you want to do that, fine. But me and you, and you've heard a lot from Cameron, I think it's pretty clear. We're not here when we're working with ourselves on our own practice, with our own mentors, and when we're mentoring other people. We're not here to try and get you to renounce the world. You know,
no, not at all.
you show up and you accept it for what it is. And I think that idea that we've been touching upon in these last podcasts of being truly anti-fragile, being
Yeah,
able to, and you don't become anti-fragile by removing yourself from that kind of theater. I guess I think that's another great chapter to kind of put our mark down. Um, is there any kind of mark that you can put on that chapter to kind of close it that's coming up for you?
yeah. I mean, I suppose this chapter, and if we're just going to flesh it out a little
Yeah,
bit more, this chapter of
for
deep
sure.
meditation, because it was longer than we've spoken about it.
Yeah.
This lasted for a year and a half,
This
two
was
years probably,
before we got
really.
to Gdansk, right? I guess is what we're talking about.
Okay, this
Yeah,
chapter.
yeah, yeah.
So, okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
thought we were
it's all right.
talking about just the whole
No, it's
meditation
okay.
chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, this chapter before Gdansk, I suppose it kind of in many ways felt like a preparation phase. Like we did
Mm,
the meditation retreat together.
yeah,
We were both going out, to London, really facing our fears
yeah,
socially of like, oh, can we go and say hi to new people in situations that would really caused anxiety at times and were
yeah,
really hard.
yeah,
But it was me and you, and we
yeah.
hadn't lived with Pierre yet, our mentor. We were
Mm,
going out and doing it together and kind of like doing our best. There's a story actually I was listening to, Craig Jones. He was talking about like when he was in Australia, he was like learning this variation of a leg lock game from the guys in the US. And then he
yeah,
went to the US and he realized that his version was just like the trash version instead, like the kind of
yeah.
do it at home version.
Your
In
DIY
many ways, it felt
version.
like
Yeah,
we were doing our DIY version of
yeah,
what we would later do,
yeah,
like just trying to figure it out, going to the meditation retreat, going into London and just trying to figure things out ourselves.
yeah,
And then for that preparation of just doing our best, really like putting in the reps, kind of getting over a
yeah,
few initial challenges, I'd say that put us, so maybe this is the DIY chapter, but put us
yeah,
in a space to actually learn from Sister and learn from Pierre and learn
yeah,
from, Kim later on and
yeah.
go and really crush it.
Actually, if we're doing it up to Gdansk, there's a few, just, I mean, we're not in a rush anywhere. We might as well talk about it a bit. The first time that I saw Cameron was on outside Camden Station. We were supposed to have booked an Airbnb, but we couldn't find it, so we just got scammed out of like 200
Oh yeah,
pounds or
yeah.
250 pounds, something like that. I see
Something like
Cameron,
that.
he's in his skin tight jeans, wearing his Timberlands. He looks like
Oh, for
like a member
sure.
of a boy band, and I'm there in like some ragtag t-shirt or shirt or something like that and some shorts. It's the first
Proper
time we ever
like
met.
Bali shirt,
Ah, yeah, yeah, that
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
experience and a half. And that was the first time we met in Camden, and we were there, pushing each other socially, kind of. I just come back from meeting Pierre, actually. That was just before, or the
yeah,
thing closed entirely. So I was in a place called Crete. And so I was like really in the social zone, you could say, because it was just like partying all the time, but also working all of the time, just this crazy bubble. And that was really fun time together in Camden. And it just grew from there, right? But then as it grew, because I still had jiu-jitsu at the same time, I was still training the same amount. So I was getting ready for the World Championships, and Cameron was getting more and more ingrained in Pierre's business or social stage.
Yeah.
And if you want to jump in at any time, let me know. But for me, up until that time, I went to go and compete in the World Championships of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was like cutting weight the whole time. I was still seeing Cameron, and my head was shaved, the whole shebang, basically. I was really getting
Right.
into that
Yeah.
mode. But I was meditating, I was doing some hypnotherapy sessions or like some coaching sessions with Pierre, go to compete at Worlds. And then for me, I'm really interested how this period was for you actually. But for me, that's when internal work suddenly became like real for me. Before
Mm.
I knew it was doing something, but that's when I was like, oh, like shit, excuse my language. This place is actually like this thing is actually giving me the edge over other people, right? So
Yeah.
another to introduce you to another colorful character who's just gonna, arise and pass away in this story. There's a place that you warm up in jiu-jitsu called the bullpen, which is where all the competitors go, which is it's like the place in between the mats and the outside. That's where you go, you
Mm.
wait to get called, you're kind of doing your last bit of warm-ups, just getting into focus. And there's this one guy who's shouting, like, I am powerful. I am like strong beyond belief. Like, bro, shouting this thing, and everyone's like shouting his affirmations, so good for him. But I remember being there and being like, oh, wait, like, that's most people's access to mindset work. Like that's what
Mm.
that means to me. Meanwhile, I just had coaching sessions with Pierre, who was learning all of this crazy. Like he was already a coach for 10 years, but the cool thing about him and what I think we learned from him is just being so aggressive about your learning. Like being so like, what's the
Yeah.
next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? In order to create breakthroughs. So he was doing that for me. And I remember being at World Championships, and I'd always been the guy that dreaded competitions. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it, even though I did a lot of them, because I just felt really like to come back to the original thing that we were talking about with Cameron dropping the labels. For me, it's always been about dropping control, right? In a
Mm.
chaotic environment, like a combat sport competition, you're not going to have control. Like, let's be perfectly honest. You're not going to have
Yeah.
control. And I'd always been somebody who it was 50-50 whether I'd rise to the moment or not in competition. And I was just coming off a tough run, actually. My last competitions had
Really.
not gone the best. I hadn't been able to win at all. I've been able to get silver. This is actually the time where I got flying armbarred in the first round and won it on the Abu Dhabi Grand Slam of London in front of my girlfriend at the time.
Oof.
Which is literally in the first 20 seconds. I'd never ever been finished like that ever in my like nothing like that before. So that was funny. I actually handled that pretty well looking back at it, which again was testament to the internal work. But I got to the competition and I felt for the first time I felt like I enjoyed it ever.
Really.
And when you enjoyed it, you get into flow state much more. So
Mm.
the guy that I faced first round had just won the Europeans at that weight, but at blue belt. So he got promoted and now he was doing purple belt. That was my first match because obviously he was a pretty high seed. I hadn't competed IBJJF that whole year, so I was the lowest seed. So I was going against someone who was really high, and I just completely destroyed him. Like it was positional dominance, and then I
Yeah.
armbarred him in the last 10 seconds as well.
Damn.
So that was like, so I double digits him and I armbarred him, right? Because I was just in such a flow state. And I was like, okay, this is going to be a good competition. But the second one, I'm not trying to make excuses at all. I was kind of running around and then he pulled me and I slipped at the same time. But he tried to pull me into close guard. But for whatever reason, my arm was by my side. So he kind of pulled me into like a semi-triangle position automatically. And I got triangled, which was frustrating. But that was the experience. And I was like, wow, this stuff actually works. Like there is an actual real world difference how I showed up to this competition, the biggest competition I'd ever showed up for ever, right? I burnt thousands. I had to ask people for money. I had to ask Pierre for money. I had to ask my gym for money. I had to do all this kind of stuff, right, just to get there. And I still felt really good. And the pressure didn't get to me. That was like the moment the penny dropped, and I was like, oh, there's something special with this kind of stuff. And I came back, and then Cameron was already living with Pierre in Gdansk at the time I got back, I think. And Pierre was like, yeah, just come for 10 days. And we'll leave
Yeah.
my story at the end of that. But what was happening for you in this time period?
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing, man. That's so cool to hear.
Yeah.
And I think we want to get deeper into that. I mean, we might even have to make this a two-parter, to be
Yeah.
honest. We want to
Yeah.
go into all of this. Well, for me at that time, it was a real interesting transition because I was still running my business a little bit because I was making some money with Pierre, but not enough. But I
Mm,
would, and also university was coming to an end. It was my final year of university.
that's right. Yeah.
And so what I was really dealing with, which I haven't thought about for a long time, but it was a real stress at the time, was once university finishes, the social normity of just being a university and just chilling goes
Mm,
away, and whatever you're doing there shows up. Like you kind of lose that just free fall. Like it can fail, it can not fail. It kind of has to work now because it
yeah.
felt like all eyes are on me. So whether it's my business or me joining Pierre, it's got to work. I've got to
Yeah.
have real money, right? Like even when I was making good money from it, it's like it's got to be real money that I can live off now,
Yeah.
which was like a whole new thing to worry about. Whereas before I could just kind of coast on, student loans and being
Grants and
university.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it was a tough experience. I mean, I remember one time because I was in an admin role, but I was also in a closing role for Piero, or
Yeah.
no, it was a setting role.
Can I just jump in for
And
10 seconds? Literally just 10 seconds.
yeah,
That thing that you're describing, I related to 100%. So I'm in front of
oh,
Karen by a couple of years. And that whole time I was dealing with my mum, like, you have to get a job. You have to get it. She wasn't like nagging me. Like, I know why she was doing that. Like, but like when you have all of that
yeah,
expectation and your thing isn't working out, it's like a different
it's
level of
tough.
pressure. You just feel like a deadbeat, basically. I'm like, oh, this is what a
Yeah.
deadbeat dad feels like.
Oh, it's
Like,
so tough.
and it's not because my mum
And
was making me feel like that. It's just like society and that kind of tough
yeah,
situation, I would say. Yeah, please.
yeah, absolutely. It's tough. And especially when you're putting so much work in, probably same for you, putting so much work into the
Not
things you
seeing
want to
any
do,
results. Yeah.
and it's just not working. And so I was with my business at the tail end of that.
Mm,
But then I remember, and then also trying to help Pierre out and doing these odd things for him. And then one time because he would always oversee all our messages, right? Because we were doing it through his accounts.
yeah.
And he was like, "Why are you rushing?" And I'm like, "I don't know, what did I do wrong?" He's like, "I feel like you're rushing." And I'm like, "Well, I guess I am. I don't want to be." Um, I kind of told
Mm,
him where I was at, like I'm finishing uni, like I've got to sort something out. I kind of am a little bit, wanting money at the moment, needing to get it.
yeah.
And obviously, if you get commission, he was like, "It's all good, bro. Don't worry about it. When you're finished university, you're, I want to hire you full time to do the
Wow.
admin stuff and you can do this on the side." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, weight off my shoulders,"
Yeah.
you know? And it
Yeah.
was like, I really remember exactly where I was because I was at my favorite cafe. I went to a university called University of Winchester, and I love that city. It's just one of my favorite cities in the UK. And
Mm.
I was at my favorite cafe when I got that message, 'cause I love to work there. And I was having a fat cappuccino, and the dopamine of a cappuccino and seeing the message, I just remember the craziest high. I was so
Oh,
happy
I bet.
and felt
Yeah.
so relieved. And it was kind of at a right good time because he didn't say it right at the end. I still have 3 months of university.
Mm.
So I was able to actually do my studies, enjoy the last few months of university, kind of say goodbye to that and kind of actually do it in an enjoyable way. And then I remember I wrapped university up on the Monday, right?
Mm.
Final exam, got it done. And then on the Wednesday, I flew out to Gdansk, right, to
Wow.
Poland where we were all going to meet. And I'd never met Pierre. You'd met him in Crete, but I
Mm.
never met him. We met online. My whole family thinks I'm crazy.
Yeah,
My
dude.
mum's like, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah,
And it's understandable. It's
yeah,
understandable.
yeah.
But I really believed, and thankfully I did because it was definitely a great judgment call.
That's the leap of faith right
But
there.
yeah, it was an absolute leap of faith. And I went, I got on that plane, I showed up in Gdansk, I met Pierre, and then I went to sleep and I was woken up by Sister Kama tickling my feet.
Oh, a classic. Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good thing to maybe
Yeah.
take a bit of a break.
So what I'm curious about as well, so we just kind of finished off that last chapter. I get there. But for you, you just come off the Worlds. You get to
Yeah,
Gdansk, maybe a few weeks later. You're in a
yeah.
relationship at the time. And what was that like for you?
Oh, I can't, to be honest, like, first of all, the relationship was great. I was about to shout out her name and I thought maybe that's not a good idea, actually. Um, we met actually when I was teaching a jiu-jitsu class, right?
Mm,
And I've been in that relationship for a year up until that time, you know. And I go to Gdansk and it's really nice, like seeing everyone there. Like Pierre's there, Cameron's there, Sister Kama is there. It's my first time meeting her. Now she is just like a force of nature. It's hard to
mm,
explain unless you meet that kind of a character. But I arrive and I just remember, it'd be interested to hear your perspective on this. I just felt so relaxed there, like at peace, you know?
mm,
Like like wow, like this is the place that I want to be, you know?
yeah,
And I think the first day we're walking by the beach. Gdansk has a nice beachfront where you can see the oil tankers on the North Sea on the on the
yeah,
picturesque coast, which is really is a bit of a mood killer. And I'm walking with Pierre. I still remember the exact moment and just like the impression of the expression he gave me when I asked this question. Where I was like, I don't know how to ask this, but can I have like the same thing as Cameron here? Oh, that thing that I forgot to mention is at the same time, Pierre had already invested in me. Excuse me, got a bit of a cold or got a bit of something in my throat. He'd already invested like a coaching program into me. Like, hey, do you want to be a backup coach when it comes to healing insecurities, rewiring insecurities, beliefs, narratives, all that kind of stuff? Because that was the area for growth in his business that he really needed. He had a lot of
yeah,
the developmental psychology stuff, obviously the dating coaching, the masculinity, relationship. I think it was how to build a holistic and transcendental relationship, basically, for men. Um, that was the name of the group, something like that, Social Sage, all that kind of stuff. But what was becoming really clear, the limiting factor always when it comes to that kind of stuff is, does the person that you're coaching actually believe that they are that person that they're trying to become?
mm,
Essentially, is what it comes down to. Even in this work that we do now, a lot of the
yeah,
time is letting go of anything that you're not necessarily being like I saying I believe that. What instead you're doing is, first of all, you're getting rid of the noise that says that's somehow distorting that. They're saying that you can't be that.
mm,
Would that be fair to
yeah,
say? And then you're building on top of that. And that's not just like a clean process. Human beings are very complex. It's like it's deconstruction and reconstruction. But instead, you're not adding anything reconstruction. It's by deconstructing. And actually, those light work systems that you were talking about, you enable them to build spontaneously by the person for the person so that it's much more solid. And that instead of you becoming a
yeah,
different person, it's actually you unlocking your fullest potential, right? And this was the area of
yeah,
growth. He'd already invested in that into me, but I made it very clear to everyone like jiu-jitsu was my thing, right? There was also so much
yeah,
narratives. I've been through, I mean, we could do a whole series of podcasts on my journey for jiu-jitsu. Um, I just had so much struggles there and so much highs and lows and all that kind of thing. But I remember being here and it just being calm. And I'm like, whoa,
yeah,
that's actually my highest ideal right now. So I was
mm.
like to Pierre, like, okay, can I have the same thing as Cameron? And like I said, I still remember that impression of like the smile he gave me. And he's like, yeah, we can do something like that. And I said
Oh,
this last time in the first podcast we ever done together. I was like, can you imagine if I never asked that question? You know?
yeah. I don't
Now,
know. Like, what would have happened.
Yeah. Probably did Pierre like have that in part of his grand strategy? I would say it's more
I don't
likely
think it
than
was a
not.
surprise.
Yeah, definitely not a surprise. And then we got introduced to a park which we nicknamed, oh, this is terrible, isn't it? That we nicknamed the breakup park because that's
Oh
when
yeah,
I rang my girlfriend and I broke up with her at the time. Because I didn't want to do long distance, and I still don't want to do long distance because just one of
yeah.
my things that I realized I tried it a few times, but just not my kind of jam. And everything that I packed for 10 days had to last for the next few months. And it was because that was the first time I went back home, basically. And me and Cameron, we were in this like luxury penthouse that the business was paying for, but that penthouse was meant for like two people. And there was five of us in there because we were also had a
Oh my
live-in client
God.
with us at the time, who's a good friend of ours
Yeah.
now. So we had Pierre, we had the live-in client, we had Sister Kamer, and then we had me, and then we had Cameron. So me and Cameron took turns. One of us slept on the couch, the other one slept on the floor. So a real glamorous kind of living situation. And for whatever reason, everyone in this house was waking up like the moment that dawn broke. We were
Oh my
just,
gosh.
and
I don't know why.
because the living room and the kitchen wasn't separated, right? We were sleeping in the living room. Everyone comes in to get their morning coffee, like the Salvation Army. Like they might as well just played the bagpipes or something because it was so loud all the time. We had such little sleep. But that Gdansk chapter, which deserves a whole chapter in and of itself, maybe we'll get to that later. What was your experience of this at the time? Like this, or everything that I've talked about, the timeline.
I mean, it was intense. And there was kind of two phases because at first it was just me, right,
Mm.
for probably a month, I think, while you were at Worlds,
Yeah.
before you came over. And that period from waking up to
Mm.
sister tickling my feet and it was so intense. And I think
Yeah.
in many ways, when you came in, it felt more relaxing after that. But still, in
Mm.
that initial month, I felt, like you said, a real peace of like, this is exactly where I need to be, where I want to be. I'm loving what I'm learning. I'm going super deep in this style of meditation, in this style of internal work. Pardon me.
You're
And
welcome.
yeah, I was also still worrying, is Pierre going to want to keep me on, right? I'm learning how to be a coach for him now. I kind of moved from just a pure admin position to he wanted to train me as a coach because we were at capacity and we needed more capacity. And so it was training me on all this new stuff. And I had to go and deliver. He gave me,
Mm.
training wheels, like working with old clients where they weren't on current programs and that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
still, I had to deliver. I had to get better. And so I was living with this kind of anxiety of feeling like I need to prove it and I need to get good at this. And then also that crazy piece of
Mm.
everything that we were learning. And it was like that, back and forth throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I do remember when you came and we had that 10-day period where it was just me and you in a different place for a little bit before we all came back to
Right.
HQ, the main
Yeah.
building. And I'd say it got more relaxed for me then. And
Yeah.
I think during that period when you came, it felt like, oh, now we're a real team.
Mm.
And everything from there in Gdansk just went, I mean, it was always up and down. There was always crazy things going on, but it was
That's
really
when it really
at
took
the
off.
core, it was
Yeah.
locked in,
Yeah.
locked in on getting better at this work. Really, like you can ask for a greater, really what it was as an apprenticeship
Yeah.
at the time of learning this coaching stuff because I mean, I can't think of a more enthusiastic leader than Pierre.
No.
And he was in love with every single modality we were learning. He was into everything that Sister was sharing about
Mm.
meditation and studying Majima Nikaya, the kind of almost the Buddhist Bible, just kind of
Yeah.
loosely for people who don't know what that is. And then there was me and you who were like just ready to get at it and had that,
Yeah.
22-year-old, 24-year-old, 3-year-old energy of like, let's
Yeah.
just all right, I don't care, 8 hour, 10 hours of learning this,
Yeah,
but not just learning it in a closed environment. We did tons of studying, but then we would go out and we would really use the meditation, in the wild, go out
yeah,
and can we be in equanimity and metta when talking to new people or doing challenging social experiences? Can
yeah,
we be in those deep meditation states? And it was a time warp because,
yeah,
Gdansk was 3, 4 months, but
yeah.
it
I
felt
think
like
three
two, three
months for me.
years.
Yeah, it
Three
felt
months, yeah.
like a whole time period because in case it isn't clear, me and Cameron, we weren't just doing that meditation like in day to day. We are also hitting at least 90-minute sets, getting daily Dharma
Yeah.
talks from Sister and daily, not just Dharma talks, but daily feedback from her. And the way she looks at you,
Mm.
this is what I do still do with clients actually sometimes when I'm testing to see if they actually made the breakthrough. She just looks at you like this. What's happening in your meditation?
Yeah,
You feel like you're
literally.
being interviewed by somebody who's checking to see if you have any like depression symptoms or something like that. It's super hardcore. Something I actually learned from her in this time period. I mean, you want to talk about enthusiastic. You've got
Oh,
to talk
yeah.
about sister. Like, so the Gdansk stuff basically culminates in the retreat that we ran, which is the original reason why we flew Sister Kama out to live with us in Poland. It's not just for us
Yeah.
to banter around with a Buddhist nun, it's to learn the Dharma, but also so she can run retreats. Anything which is about her learning and giving and preaching the Dharma, she was all for. She didn't know
Oh,
Pierre,
yeah.
just met him online. She didn't know us, but when she got the choice, like, hey, we'll fly you out and you'll live with us, some random dudes on the other side of the world who she doesn't know because she was living in Mumbai, India. She was living in India, I think it was Mumbai. She was like, "Do I get to spread the Dharma?" And we were like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Cool, I'm in." Um, anyway, we go and we run this retreat in this really beautiful part of Poland, actually, in the forest, where some of
Oh,
her,
yeah.
which was supposed to be a silent retreat. Let's own up to our shortcomings. That was not a silent retreat. We were chatting away, just like sister. Also, as if someone who's still paying attention, the food at this retreat was some of the worst foods just
Terrible.
in general I've ever
Terrible.
had. And we're running this retreat, and me and Cameron are hitting like 3, 4 hours at a time, zero breaks, just push, 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 push. We're going out into the world. So this is before this and also after it, seeing if we can maintain that level of equanimity, maintain that level of mindfulness. Um, Maintain that level of open focus and just seeing what it affects differently and what transformation that gives. Now, the cracks that we talked
Yeah.
about earlier, I could say they were almost like plastered over because our
Yeah.
at this point our meditation states were just so strong that things really didn't affect us that much,
Mm.
at all.
Absolutely.
But one of those things was the diagnosis that Sister Kama got stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
And she started deteriorating pretty quickly. Because let me know if you have any curiosities or you want to jump in or stop me or anything like that. But Cameron and Pierre, because the business that was just gone through like a golden era before, where we were making like
Mm.
20K months, all that kind of stuff, now we're starting to go down. And that business has to support everyone.
Yeah.
Me, Pierre, Cameron, and sister, you know? So we needed, so Cameron and Pierre, they're running retreats because Cameron was doing more of the social stuff. That was one of my more struggles in terms of calibration. And they were going over, and it was me and the other client that we were living with who were taking care of Sister. And I was there for like the past month before you left, I think, on my own, or the last 2 weeks with the client and
Yeah.
her. And I saw like a significant decrease in what was going on there,
Mm.
basically. And I was still having to be professional. I was working with clients. I was, doing all that kind of stuff. But that was a really tough period um, for me. And I know that you had your own experiences through that, like working with clients for the first time, retreats, live in with Pierre and the client, and that was a whole different ball game. But basically, if we were to
Yeah.
put a mark on the Gdansk chapter was if the chapter before that was like setting us up for success. The Gdansk chapter was almost like building the foundations and almost like the sober reality that this time period is not going to last forever. That's what it
Mm,
was for me. But what's
yeah.
coming up for you?
It was a lot of things. Um, and I'm trying to think just Gdansk because it conflates
Yeah.
into Budapest too. I think, like you said, it was the foundations. We were learning so much from Sister and Pierre. We were just
Mm,
so locked in with all of it.
mm,
And it felt so long. It felt like we were on the craziest adventure you could ever be on,
yeah.
and
Was there
nothing
anything
else really
better
mattered.
when you're in your early
Oh,
20s? Yeah.
absolutely. Like on a real adventure with real characters and like from Pierre to the client we were with to Sister, of course.
Mm,
And then, culminating in that retreat, which
yeah.
ended up being Sister's last retreat. And that was an amazing experience. That was,
I
apart
wish
from the
we,
food, which absolutely sucked,
yeah.
it
Oh,
was
bro.
amazing. And the experience was, and we were all in a room together. So I was like, it was meant to be a really, you know, monastic and 10 days of silent retreat, but it just ended up being banter with the boys. And Sister
Yeah.
was one of the boys
Yeah.
in many ways. She was
Yeah.
about it. And she
We had
started
another
off
character
speaking
drawn
first.
us. Yeah, I mean, she broke the silence. We also had another character join us, who was our spiritual teacher, that was trained directly by Sister Kama,
Yeah.
Patrick Carlson. He's got his own business right now, so shout out to him. You can probably see him on, I can't remember what his name is. We'll probably have to look at that. But he was also there for the retreat. He got flown over. So the business had one other person to look after as well, which is going to
Yeah.
explain the next few months, I think, pretty well. But yeah, did you have any more closing remarks on that?
Yeah. And so we're just in this intense experience,
Mm,
culminating in a retreat, which has ended up being fantastic. And I remember Sister would do these Dharma talks every night.
yeah.
And the thing about Sister is she's a bit chatty. And so sometimes these Dharma talks would be well, they were never succinct, but they'd sometimes be 45 minutes, which was like a short one.
Yeah.
But they would range up to like 3 hours.
Ah,
And
yeah.
from a metaphor of an apple to
Yeah.
stories of literal apples in which she was farming when she was in Missouri.
Yeah.
And
They'd
I'm
be like
like,
three,
Sister,
four
I
hour
think,
stories. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm thinking, Sister, is this like some really clever metaphor, or are you just telling us about your farming in Missouri? I couldn't tell
Yeah.
at one point,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but we would have these amazing talks and amazing experiences, I think, because, at that time, like you said, the cracks would show in just a pure meditation approach, which is what we were taking more or less at this time.
Mm,
But at the time, I was so deep within states of equanimity, karuna, and metta that it was like just living in bliss,
yeah.
living in bliss all day, every day. And there wasn't really much of an experience outside of it unless a trigger would arise. And
Yeah.
in that kind of environment, they wouldn't arise as much.
Mm,
And so I'd say that experience was the foundations. But in many ways, it was like the calm ish before the storm.
yeah.
It wasn't calm, but it was much calmer than what
Then
comes
what
next.
was about to follow? Yeah. I mean, if we want to start this next chapter off, Budapest, do you
Mm.
want me to ask you a question, or do you have a question arising for you? Like,
Yeah.
what's kind of coming up
Let
for
me
you? Yeah.
let me just check in with Lamont 'cause I don't know if she needs to use this space before she
Yeah.
goes to work.
We'll
Give me a
just pause
sec.
it. So I think now we're encountering the change in seasons, right?
Mm.
In terms of moving from kind of almost summertime in Gdansk, which is what's anchored for me. And just a few things I want to say on that. Just like one of the things I really learned from Sister Kama is how everything, like you said, was super structured. Everything was super structured, but she gave you so much space to play and experiment and for you to make the practice your own. And that's something that I actually
Yeah.
taken into my approach of coaching um, from her, from just seeing that. And I'm sure it's the same for you. If you don't have any more thoughts on that, we can just move to the next thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious as well about what your experience was coming to Budapest because that's kind of the next chapter that emerges.
Yeah. For me, I remember asking for Sister Kava's blessing before I left.
Yeah.
And she like gave me like a full-on blessing. Like I had to kneel and all that
Wow.
kind of stuff. Yeah. The only thing I don't remember anything from that blessing. There's just one phrase I remember where she says, "And may the road rise to meet you."
Wow.
Right.
I love that.
Uh, I don't know why that just has so much significance for me. Thank God I had that blessing because what's about to come is the implosion of social stage before the rebirth, basically.
Jeez, yeah.
So I get to away from some sister, and Patrick had taken over my job as like being sister's carer, basically, and he does a phenomenal job with that. And obviously, the other client is really good at helping out as well, but he's like a paying client to be with us. Like he shouldn't be expected to do that. And I just remember having so much joy being back in Budapest because I remember being really like lonely in Gdansk because it was just me. The client
Mm.
had his own time schedule and was doing his own thing. You know, he was a bit of an introvert. And Sister was like really going downhill. So it was just like a lot of pressure on me, to be honest with you. And Budapest was like a liberation from that. And it was nice in the beginning. But then, like, once it started hitting, I got over there in September. November was like, oh, like this business is going down, you know? Up and before this,
Mm.
what we were actually doing is taking the really enlightened approach of partying to to avoid the reality of the situation. So it just goes to show you, like, you know, don't hold yourself to like some perfectionist standards because there's always stuff happening. And I kind of put that up until the part where Pierre had to go to Mexico to run the retreat. That's kind of when
Yeah.
stuff really started going down. Like, there's not really in those 2 weeks, or not those couple months. I mean, unless you have a different experience, there's not really much happening in that, to be honest with you. It's just us partying and
It was
doing
a vibe.
what, and I mean, it was a great vibe and getting to work and doing whatever we could and all that kind of stuff. But I would say it kind of really starts kicking off like when Pierre went to Mexico for a few weeks and me and you were just left in Budapest and Patrick had come as well to be with us.
Oh
What's coming
yeah.
up for you?
Well, I mean, that was a fun. Those 2 months before Pierre left were just so fun. We were like, it was in many ways partying on the way down. Like there was
It's
kind of
like if you
a
saw the Titanic and everyone just
yeah,
decided to have a boogie as it was going down, basically. That's how I imagine it.
yeah, because we were doing great work, but we just weren't putting a lot of energy into the marketing and sales,
Mhm.
putting all the energy into fulfillment and becoming
Delivery.
better coaches, which does really great for referrals, which we had plenty of, but for consistent leads was a bit challenging. And I remember just that experience was just a vibe. And it wasn't just us. We also knew lots of people in Budapest. It was a
Yeah,
really great hub for a lot of people to
yeah,
come to in Europe. And so like every night we were having just amazing experiences with really cool people for a couple of
yeah,
months. And it was always like a party. And what would
yeah,
always happen is it would be a random Tuesday night
yeah,
and one of the boys is like, should we go out? And we're like,
yeah.
oh, let's go out for one. And we go out for like, it would always
We
start,
never went
we
out
always
on the
start from a new
days that you're
place.
supposed to go on parties,
No,
right? Which, to be
never.
honest, I actually quite like because there's always, you only unlock like the true characters in life at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. That's like
That
when
is
you've
true.
earned the right to really get to grip in the weeds of people. And I think actually we'll probably do a part two on this. So we'll end just as things really start going downhill. So guys, this is the happy part. Enjoy yourself, but we're going to be getting into the weeds of it next week, I think, because me and Cameron are getting a bit tired. But I remember this time period being really fun, but also really stressful at the same time,
Oh
because
yeah, yeah.
the reason we were doing all of that is because we knew that we were all now committed to this vision. But this
Mm.
vision,
Yeah.
we couldn't ride the wave of it anymore. Because also what was happening is the company was transitioning too. Before it was really almost like hyper fixated on dating and relationships. Now that was still a big focus point, but I would say we were getting more and more people that also just wanted to get their mind right or their emotions right,
Yeah. Yeah.
and getting more into the being more spiritually inclined and all that kind of stuff. And I think what I learned here, like every single period builds on itself. Well, first of all, what did you learn in this period that's different from the others, would you say? Or
Just
maybe it was just a deepening of something.
go out on a Tuesday night. That's what I learned.
Yeah.
You know, I think
Yeah.
this period, you know what it felt like? Because in Poland, where we were
Mm.
at for 3 months, it was so
It was super
focused.
sober, wasn't it, actually? Like a
It
really,
was
not like
so
just like in terms of drink, but like a sober
yeah,
attitude. Yeah.
it was like focused. So when we got to Budapest, and in many ways also we weren't now living with a Buddhist nun, which means like we were a little bit more because I mean, sister was amazing. She was absolutely amazing. She was one of the boys. She's still a Buddhist
Yeah.
nun, so carry a ton of respect, and we're not going to
Yeah.
do
We
certain
couldn't act like
things
this
in the
way at
apartment.
all.
We're not going to
Yeah.
party. We're not going to have any. We didn't have any alcohol in the house,
We didn't have
right?
any
It's not like we
guests
drink a
in the
lot anyway,
house,
but
you
yeah, we
know,
didn't have any guests in
besides,
the house.
oh no, wait, that's a
Uh,
whole other chapter. Remember that coach came
anyway,
over?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 We can't get
Yeah.
too sidetracked here. So when we got to Budapest, it was kind of like we had been so focused for so long. It's now like
Yeah.
let's just party. It's the boys. It's just us.
Yeah.
And we really did it. And we met some amazing people. And we probably weren't as focused as we should be. But also, I think the hard part was that there was a transitioning direction,
Yeah.
and it
Also, we had to
needed to
get
go down
sister
before it could go up. Oh yeah,
to Budapest.
that
That was
too.
a whole other stress as well that
Oh,
me and
yeah.
Cameron had to. At the
That's
first, we thought we were going to have to airlift her out of like Gdansk or something to get to this really good
oh
hospice that we
yeah,
found in Budapest. We had to call up our old associates at the lineage she was from, and they paid for it and all that kind of stuff because we didn't have the money to pay to support her anymore in terms of the hospice. The hospice was super expensive. She was there for a
yeah,
long time. Um, I guess how we would characterize this like short 2 month period, like because I think this period is really important to get right because it sets up the rest of the year that we were in Budapest.
yeah,
I don't know, mate. Like when you think about it, this was, at least for me, it's so silly because I was older. You think like transitioning to like being a real like a man is like 18. But for me, like it was
mm,
this period. I was like what, 23,
yeah,
24. This is almost when responsibilities were all like dropped on you. And it got exacerbated because
mm,
our mentor wasn't there. Like we were
yeah,
just there,
yeah.
like chilling on our own.
It's me and
Um,
you.
I don't want to drag it
That's
out
the
too.
next bit.
That's
Yeah.
the next bit. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to drag it out anymore. Is there anything else you want to say on this?
Yeah, I mean, this is just you can call it the calm before the storm, the party on
Yeah.
the way down, but it was a fun period
Yeah.
and it gets less fun quite quickly.
Yeah. And you have that on that bombshell. We'll leave that to the next part next week. Go and follow Cameron, subscribe. His content is amazing. His one-on-one work, I can't recommend enough. Go ahead and check him out. You can book in a call with him if you need to, or you can just go check out his socials. Anything from you, Cam?
Yeah, absolutely the same. Check out Aaron and put his YouTube down below. He's amazing one-on-one, but I also know you have a free workshop that's really, really good. Am I getting that
Yeah,
right? Because I know it's
two
really
and a half
powerful.
hours, how to get started in shadow work, comprehensive. The same system I use for my clients is given there for free. So go ahead and check that out. All it
Yeah,
costs is your email.
absolutely.
Great. See you guys on the next one.
All right.